Greetings, everybody. Welcome to a beautiful Monday afternoon. Uh, I am coming to you live from a very sunny and clear-skied Hoedspruit, just on the edge of the Kruger National Park, and it is time for another 2 hours of live at the waterhole today. We have started out at Tenby Elephant Park. I've not seen much of Tenby over the last few days. I've been doing these cameras. Great to see some bulls meandering along the edge of the waterhole there. But my name's Ben Coley. I will be with you to answer any of your questions, respond to your comments, and hopefully give you some interesting information and some interesting insights to all the fantastic things and interactions that we will be seeing today. So please do send in all of your correspondences. It's always lovely to hear from you. Of course, we are very much in winter now. It is the 23rd today, the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. For us here in the southern hemisphere was on the 21st, so longest day for those of you in the northern hemisphere. I hope you've been enjoying the summer months, particularly if you have daylight savings time where you are. I know it's always a bit strange when I go back home to England and it's summertime, but it's still light there at sort of almost 10 o'clock in the evening. You can still see what you're doing, which is a little bit strange to get used to when you're not used to it. I remember when I was younger playing golf after work and still managing to squeeze in 18 holes before it got too dark to play. But down here, even in the middle of summer, thanks to no daylight savings, it's still dark by about 7:30. So very, very different. This time of year, it's dark by 6, just gone. See, we have our standard greetings coming through. Thank you so much for saying hi, everybody. Mercedes Ben saying happy Monday. Glad to see everybody. I've got Jordan helping me from Johannesburg, along with the wonderful tech team and everybody else who makes this show possible. Marco Casas, you are here as well. You're looking forward to adding to your bird list. We will keep an eye out for any feathered friends who make an appearance, certainly. Harriet Hodgkin, it's raining in Cape Town again. I'm sorry, Harriet, but it is winter for you. For those of you who don't know, Cape Town has a very different climate to everywhere else in South Africa due to its location. It does have more of a Mediterranean climate and has its cold, wet weather in the winter and the warmer, dry weather in the summer, whereas everywhere else in the country, the Lowveld included, has its rain during the summer months. Penelope Kenyon as well. You're saying hi to everybody at the waterhole. 27 degrees Celsius on the KZN coast. And it's lovely, as you say. Enjoy it, Penelope, enjoy it. And hello, David, as well. You are waving at us. Good to hear from you. Thank you very much, David, and Sandy Franklin joining us as well. You're saying let's find some fur. That would be nice. Some spots, some rosettes, anything carnivorous would be a nice surprise. Not that we have any issues with this beautiful group of elephant bulls at Tenby Elephant Park. Paul, you want to know where is Maputoland? Maputoland is on the far eastern side of the country. It's just south of the Mozambican border and east of Swaziland. So in that little corner of land with the coast on one side, Mozambique to the north, and Swaziland to the left, and then obviously it stretches down the KZN coast down towards Richards Bay. So far east of the country. In terms of latitude, just a little bit further south than Johannesburg, but quite close to the coast. Some more greetings flooding in. Hello, Catherine. Glad you could join us. Harriet, you're more bad news from Cape Town. It's been raining for the whole week, and you've got another storm forecast on Wednesday. Oh dear. Umbrellas at the ready. But to say, as much as the rain can be frustrating, it is such a good thing. Nature's elixir, and everything responds so well to the rain. So, as frustrating as it can be, it's an excellent thing to have. And we hope, for the animals' sake and the vegetation's sake in this area of the country, that we don't have a particularly dry winter. A little bit of rain here and there will be fine, preferably during the middle of the day, and then nice clear nights is the plan. Hello, Jive Bunny, as well. You're saying your son managed 2 rounds of golf on the Cotswolds on Friday because of the long daylight hours. It is a great thing, actually, daylight savings, isn't it, to really make use of it? Say, particularly as someone who's grown up in England, we want to make use of the rare fine weather when it can, but it was always a depressing time in winter when it's only getting light at sort of 8 o'clock in the morning and it's dark by about 4:30. That is quite a depressing time. But say it makes up for it in the summer. I've had quite a few confusing afternoons there. I start thinking, oh, it's still light. I'm getting a bit hungry. I wonder what time it is. And it's like 9 o'clock at night, and you haven't even thought about dinner yet. Messes with your circadian rhythms a little bit.
I met this remarkable rhino bull, whose name is Samson, last year in a place of extraordinary beauty, history and story. I'm going back there to see him in October, and I think you should come with me to his mysterious mountain fastness.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
This is what they call a shambi, a family, a whole herd of elephants.
But nature is beyond amazing. Nature is just everything.
We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments about biology, Africa, safari.
She's using her tail like a monkey.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. You'll gain access to the channel ad-free. You can rewind and rewatch sightings and gain access to our live Tuesday safaris. There's also behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever it suits you. It's just the best way to connect with nature.
His name was Usman, and he sounds like an interesting character because apparently he is a bit of a hybrid cross between the forest elephant and the savannah elephant. I don't know whether that's sort of been done with genetic testing, but interesting if they have indeed crossed for some reason there. But we wish Niokolo Kobe National Park all the best. Sounds like a wonderful place. I'm glad to know that things are returning to that area. Joshua Drown, you're also greeting us. It's going to be 100 degrees, I hope Fahrenheit and not centigrade for your sake, Joshua, in Michigan. But say, enjoy the summer months whilst you can. Rather interesting two-toned effect this bull has got on his trunk. Bit of yin and yang going on. Mr. Elemental, you're also joining us from Western Australia in Perth. Late afternoon for you, coming up to 7 o'clock in the evening. I hope you've had a wonderful day, and what a great way to finish the day by enjoying some sights and sounds from our selection of cameras. Let's hope we get some things that you want to see, Mr. Elemental. Sandy Franken, you say it's hot and rainy in Tennessee and you wish you were here. Absolutely, it's a beautiful day today. There's a nice breeze, it's not hot, it's clear skies. Very, very happy. But say, a bit of a breeze, it's quite a strong wind, I would actually go out on a limb to say, in fact. Catherine, the thing you miss the most when you're in South Africa is the evening light. I'm not sure if you're referring to the evening light here in South Africa, which is very beautiful, or the late evenings in the Northern Hemisphere. But either way, we're always very happy to welcome you back to South Africa, Catherine, and I hope you enjoy it whilst you are here. Sarah, in the UK, you've been to a wedding in West Africa into the Gambia, which you say was a very interesting experience. Have never been to West Africa myself. I know that one can do a sort of a beach holiday in Gambia, but I must admit, so going back to that conversation, I wasn't aware of national parks in Senegal. Apparently, it was going through a tough time a few years ago, in the early 2000s. It was actually put on the UNESCO heritage sort of endangered national park list, but has since been removed due to some excellent conservation efforts, a big injection of money to help it, and so it seems to be doing very well. And let's hope that Usman is not the only elephant wandering around there, and I will try and keep an eye on those sorts of things. Lots of other news that I came across as well. Some of the rhinos that are being distributed, that's not the word. What's the word I'm looking for? Relocated. There we go. By African parks have safely made it to a park up in Rwanda as well, which is outside of their sort of natural range, but it is considered that they will do very well there. So we wish them all the best in their new home and hope that they travel safely. Great to know all those rhinos are being distributed around to suitable positions. Mr. Elemento, you're saying it would be more interesting if we crossed an elephant with a giraffe. Well, please don't give anybody strange ideas, considering we're trying to bring back woolly mammoths and dire wolves and all sorts of strange things. But I agree, a girelephant or a eloph would be quite the sight, I have no doubt. Imagine that. Dive Bunny, you're saying, I assume that last night that we saw both striped hyena and a caracal on this camera at Old Donyo. That would be pretty amazing. I may have to go back and see if I can find those. Caracal is probably my top animal to see. Very, very rarely happens, but I'm a big fan of the caracal. Love those tufty ears and those beautiful eyes. If we could just arrange for one to come through during the next hour and a half or so, that would be lovely. Slow, deliberate movements of the trunk there. This elephant in a very relaxed mood today. Sarah, he does have the waterhole all to himself for a change. It's normally a very, very busy waterhole here at Oldonyo between the elephants, the giraffe, the zebras, the eland, the oryx. We have impala coming through. Lots and lots of interesting sightings. I have to say it is one of my favourite of all the cameras. There's never a dull moment at Oldonyo. David, you're saying you saw a sculpture of a girelephant on Saturday. I don't know where you were, David, to see this, but I would be interested to also see it. But yeah, imagine an elephant-sized giraffe with a long neck, or an elephant with a neck like a giraffe. That's the stuff of fantasy and fairy tales, I would think. But who knows? Maybe on another planet somewhere there are such things. Time will tell, I suppose. Daniel Seufer, this is a name I don't recognize. I'm glad you are joining us, Daniel, and that you have been able to write in and say hi. You're saying you're about 2 miles from the Gulf of Mexico. Sounds very, very nice. I hope you're having a wonderful day and that you enjoy the cameras for the next couple of hours. Greetings to Dark Main Lover as well from Los Angeles. Penelope Kenyon agreeing this elephant's having a good snooze. It's sleep drinking. Something that I'm sure we've all suffered from at some point. Or certainly drinking too much that it leads to sleep. Surprisingly quiet, apart from this elephant at Old Donias. You normally expect to see things emerging from the bush in the background. Normally happens a lot of the time, but as you can see, it doesn't look like it's a particularly hot day. Nice and cloudy there. Of course, Kenya coming out of the long rains now. You can see from the vegetation that it's still rather nice and lush and green. So perhaps not quite the water stress that we would expect during the heart of the dry season, particularly in this area. No perennial water in the Chulu Hills area where Oldonia is located. So the animals are very reliant in the dry season on these water sources. Looks like he's gazing into his own reflection. A little bit of self-reflection moment for this big bull, considering all of his activities. I wonder if he's been on a great trek around the area. Fascinating. I wonder if anyone's ever done a sort of a scrape of the skin or the mud off an elephant's foot and been able to match the geology of where they've been. Of course, it'd be much easier just to tag the elephant, but never nice to see animals with collars on. It always makes me wonder just how many kilometers those great feet have trodden over the last probably 30 to 40 years, looking at the size of this bull, all the adventures that he's had. A lifetime of bush education and experience. Or maybe he had a rough weekend and just taking it easy today, but does look very lethargic. Looks like he's sort of dipping in and out of consciousness. I'd say no pressure on the waterhole at the moment. I think it's fair to say he's fallen asleep. Almost looks as if he's fallen asleep with his trunk in the water. Let's hope he doesn't accidentally take a deep breath. Okay, sounds like we've got some other Ellies at Serendella. Let's head over to that camera for a change. Ah, time for your close-up. Hello, boy. How awesome is that? Hey, we're coming to investigate. Always nice when they come right up to the camera. Get a real sense of what you're looking at. It's always lovely to feel or to see the texture of the skin. It's amazing to feel as well. I've been lucky enough to do a couple of elephant collarings and dartings over the years, and it really is the privilege to actually touch one of these animals in a controlled manner, I should maintain as well. But enormous bodies that they have, and I'm always surprised with how warm the skin actually is. I don't know what I was expecting. I think in my head you're sort of thinking of it as a sort of a lifeless, inanimate, leathery texture, but it's not. It's warm. You can feel the hairs under your hand. You can actually see and feel the rise and fall of the chest. It's quite a humbling experience to actually have physical contact with one of these animals. Realistic marble, you wonder if we're going to see some camera tampering. Yeah, maybe he just came in to check his makeup there, have his close up, but yeah, maybe he was just adjusting the focus. Thought we could make him look even more beautiful. Catherine, you're saying that the elephants do often check out this camera. It is very close to the water. It's right on the edge, so I imagine it is a little bit distracting, especially for a curious animal such as an elephant, it must be giving off some strange smells and some strange sounds as it moves around, and probably is a little bit distracting. Just so long as they don't destroy it. So I've actually been in Thorny Bush a couple of times this week. I haven't actually been onto Serendella itself, but lovely to see now that Thorny Bush is open to Kruger, of course. Lovely to see the influx and the immigration and emigration of animals into those areas, and very interesting from a conservational aspect to see how the landscape is responding to having this open system now. Little family of warties coming down for a drink as well. It sounds like some zebras have joined our slumbering elephant up at Oldonio. Let's go up and see if we have some chaos at the water's edge. Quite know with zebras, so quite cantankerous animals, not uncommon to get some kicking and biting. Yeah, this one having a drink looks like he's had his maiden cropped a little bit. Been in for a trim. Lucy Chodil asking which animal is the most ugliest in the reserve. Shame, Lucy. I would say no animals are ugly, and of course ugliness is in the eye of the beholder, just like beauty. From a personal perspective, I actually don't think any of the animals are ugly. Many have a reputation of being so, and of course we know about the rather cruelly labelled ugly five. If I have to choose an ugly animal, I probably am going to go with the marabou stork. It is in that ugly five that tourism has dictated, but yeah, it doesn't matter what angle you look at a marabou stork from, it's not a pretty bird. And that's hard for me to say because I do love my birds. But I also can't think of a mammal that I would deem ugly. Warthogs are funny looking, but I think they've transcended ugliness to cute because they're so unusual. But no, nothing else. Hyenas also with the reputation, but I think hyenas are beautiful. Darkmane Lover, you're warning those zebras to be careful of an unpredictable elephant. Yeah, just because he's in a bit of a go slow and looks a little bit lethargic today, they can still move surprisingly fast. And you saw it just took a little slight nudge of the trunk in the zebra's direction to send them all scattering a few minutes ago. But he's looking pretty tolerant, I would think. Lilitha, is this right? You're 7 years old. Well, in that case, welcome to the show and thank you for your question. You're asking why is the elephant chasing the zebras away? The elephants can sometimes get quite protective over their waterholes. This is not a very big waterhole, and they don't want things getting too close to them, invading their personal space. And particularly during the dry season, when water is precious, then they can become quite protective over those water sources. But say we've just come out of a good rainy season in Kenya, so there's quite a lot of water around, so there's less pressure on the animals. So maybe the elephants are a little bit more tolerant at the moment, but they are well known for chasing other animals away, particularly the younger elephants. The young males, they have a lot of testosterone in their body, they're growing up, they're showing off, they're flexing their muscles, and for a young elephant there is nothing more fun than chasing a poor unsuspecting animal around the bush. Even birds, I've seen them squirt water at storks and herons before. I've seen them try and oust hippos from the water. have arguments with herds of buffalo that are coming down to drink. They are always entertaining to watch their behavioural antics. Lorraine, you're saying the marabou stork is so ugly that it's beautiful. Well, that's what I think about the warthog as well. I struggle with the marabou stork, though it did get a bad hand. But absolutely beautiful in its own right, but not a traditional beauty, let's call it that. Leroy, you're asking whether elephants can breathe through their mouth. I believe they can. Their primary breathing mechanism is through the trunk, but I believe that if they choose to, they can breathe through their mouth. And you're also asking if they can vocalize through their mouth. Yeah, they can. The infrasonic rumblings that we hear sort of emanate from deeper down in the larynx and do emanate through the mouth. So yes, they do, but given the choice, they will breathe through their trunks, as far as I know. Dark Main Lover, you're also agreeing that hyenas are beautiful, especially their cubs. Yeah, absolutely. The cubs are lovely when they're all black and fluffy and running around causing chaos with their erupted teeth from birth. Must be a little bit tricky for mum to deal with, but I agree. Hyenas have a very bad reputation for being ugly, but I think they're very, very beautiful. Some of the older ones look a little bit tatty, but don't we all as we get a little bit older? Okay, speaking of these marabou storks and things that may or may not be ugly, I think we are approaching vulture feeding time. So let's head up to Zimbabwe to watch the chaos. Well, there is the chaos. You can see some of the large marabou storks trying their hand in there, but struggling to find a gap in and amongst the melee of wings and beaks. They always remind me of sort of social insects or little winged termites and things around the entrance to a burrow. And it always looks as if somebody's hit the fast forward button this time. Never ceases to amaze just how quickly they can dispose of these titbits, of these pieces of carcass that are put out to them, and how fast they completely engulf everything out in the bush. I remember being on Meditlo Game Reserve a few years ago, and there was a poor unfortunate Inyala that had got stuck in the mud. Everything was drying up, and this poor Inyala, I don't know how long he'd been in there, but my tracker and I made the decision that we probably shouldn't have done, but it's very difficult when you're actually there in front of it. We were going to help this animal, we could easily get to it, and we managed to drag it out of the mud and just left it on the bank a few meters away in the hope that it would recover. Left it in the shade. That was probably around about 8 o'clock or so in the morning, and we went back in the afternoon, probably about 4 or 5 o'clock, to check up on it, and unfortunately it had obviously succumbed from that issue. Not sure how long it had been stuck in there, but was obviously just completely exhausted, probably dehydrated, and it had died sometime during the morning. But by the time we got there, there was literally just skin and bones and a whole bunch of vultures. They had completely stripped that carcass. No other sign of any predators coming in, just from the vultures. What was a full-grown female Inyala was reduced to just a rib cage and some bones within only half a day, really. Incredible efficiency. Leopard lover, you're saying that when you feed birds in your backyard, they hang around all day, and is you feeding them, stopping them from hunting or foraging? I don't know, leopard lover. Sort of depends on what they're doing, really. But birds learn that if you're putting out food for them, that's a lot easier than hunting for themselves or foraging for themselves. So any organism, ourselves included, will generally take the easy option. But I think it's important that we do try and feed the birds. It's a good thing to have birds in your garden. It's good for your immediate surrounding ecosystem. And of course, birds have had to adapt as well. Our relentless urbanization, the relentless spread of humans has dramatically reduced their habitat, and that will have had a knock-on effect with the food that they are looking for. So very important that we do what we can to help those birds, and generally speaking, it's very much encouraged to put out food for your birds, as long as it's the right type of food. Of course, we don't want to feed them things that they wouldn't otherwise be getting, but grain and fruits and things, certainly. Unless you're putting out deceased insects, however, I think the insect-eating birds will have to look a little bit further afield.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
South Africa's wild places are closer than you think, because Federal Airlines brings them to you. From the calm of our FedAir lounge to the smooth boarding of our trusted fleet, we take care of the journey so you can enjoy the adventure. Our flights go beyond the ordinary, connecting you to South Africa's most remote and extraordinary locations. Federal Airlines, your gateway to the South African wild.
I get to wake up every morning and go out there and look for cats. I get to create my everyday safari for myself. I grew up in the sort of central eastern suburbs of Johannesburg, fully qualified trails guide and a fully qualified nature conservationist. I love the wild places. I love being in the wilderness. It's probably one of the best jobs I've ever had and probably ever could have.
Down a little bit now. Sandy Franklin, you're asking what are the bluebirds? I assume you mean the large bluebirds. Those are the aforementioned marabou storks that may or may not be an ugly bird. We're yet to decide on that completely. So not one of my favourites, but I still think they're pretty amazing things. They're just not blessed with as good a looks as perhaps some of the others. Sarah, in the UK, you're saying your sister saw this feeding frenzy earlier this month when she stayed at the lodge. I've never been up to the lodge here, but I imagine that was a pretty amazing experience. Very, very cool to witness. All right, things look as if they're settling down, just a few little squabbles and feathers thrashing around. So let's head back over to Oldonyo and see if our elephant has completely fallen asleep. Okay, well it seems that he has doubled, in fact, a little bit of cellular meiosis, or is it mitosis? I never remember which one is the splitting of cells, but either way, he has been joined by a friend. Although it looks as if they may have had a bit of an argument. He's turned his back on him. Another floppy-eared elephant, some form of damage along that cartilaginous line that runs through the ear that holds it steady. Still no closer to figuring out what causes that. Best guess is some form of genetic problem as opposed to an injury, but been unable to substantiate if there is a specific cause. We do see floppy-eared elephants from time to time. Now I remember at Djuma a while ago, I can't remember when it was, I saw one elephant with two floppy ears, which I hadn't seen before. Always made me worry about his peripheral vision and whether or not he was able to thermoregulate effectively. But it was probably a late single figures elephant in terms of age and seemed to be quite happy and healthy. So elephants are nothing short of highly adaptable. So I'm sure he will make a plan to deal with that disability if it is such a thing. Brian, you're saying you always keep a dictionary, notebook and scrubbing pad handy whenever I am live. I'm glad to hear you're taking notes, Brian. We'll send you the exam at some point. three-dimensional picture, a duplicate. There's a little bit of staggering going on there. The one at the back is definitely having a quiet day. You see the way the trunk is just resting on the ground, often the sign of an elephant having a standing up doze. I think this one's probably thinking that that's not a bad idea. Maybe it's contagious, like yawning. Leopard lover, you're saying nothing is ugly and that word should be eradicated. I think that is a very good point. We will boycott the use of the word ugly when referring to any of Mother Nature's creations from this day henceforth. Come up with some good synonyms, some euphemisms. What a peaceful scene for a Monday. Amazing that something so big, so powerful, so potentially dangerous can elicit such relaxation when looked at. So just look at those eyes. Doleful, soft eyes. Lorraine, you're also campaigning against the ugly description. I feel I've opened a can of worms here. I will attempt not to use the word ugly, so from this moment forward on these shows. Maybe attractively challenged. How about that?
Join me, Andrew Wistenholm, for an indescribable 6-night stay in the beautiful Albany of the Eastern Cape at Amakhala Game Reserve. Now, this trip is going to be action-packed with a lot of storytelling, adventure, as well as the opportunity to make everlasting memories. We'll be exploring the best of Amakhala by staying at 2 luxury lodges, which will be the perfect blend of comfort as well as wilderness. Book your spot today, and let's get ready to explore the wild beauty of Amakhala.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Best sighting I've presented, I found myself with wild dogs, which chased the dogs around, chased them around. They ate an impala. We got the end of that. Then another impala went into Gowrie Dam down the road there, and the wild dogs went around. Eventually the impala came close to the bank. One wild dog went and grabbed it and then just pulled it out and just did what wild dogs do. It was an emotional experience, but it was very, very special.
Hyenas love bathing. Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free, 24/7, and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Silhouette given off by most birds. It's like a little rectangle sitting on a branch. Always like to think that it can spot one of those. Saw a nice one in Mabula actually. Managed to put him on camera a few weeks ago. Nasty crack in this tusk on his right, the left tusk as we're looking at it. Whether that was recently broken, I'm not sure, but I know we've had a few questions in the past about whether that would elicit some sort of toothache, but there would be no root that far down on the tusk. There is some root sticking out from the lip line, but that will just be like chipping a tooth or breaking a tooth. Shouldn't be causing any discomfort. That wouldn't have done any damage to the root itself. Whether that's happened in a tussle with another male, or maybe it was just weakened by some sort of mineral deficiency, maybe related to whatever happened to its floppy ear, we never know. But it must be a huge amount of force to snap such a substantial thing. Some quite interesting behaviour, just keeps putting the trunk into the mouth, almost say, look, as like he's sort of chewing on it. What if he's perhaps blowing air into the mouth, analysing some scent? There is some elephant dung on the ground close to where he is, but it doesn't look like he's being particularly analytical of everything there. Maybe just a comforting thing like sucking your thumb, who knows? looks like the slightly younger of the two has awoken from his slumber, even if only partially. Thought about having a little shower and some elephant equivalent of some coffee. But interesting behaviour from the other one. Again, sitting there with the trunk just sort of positioned in the mouth. If anyone's got any ideas of what he might be doing, so is it just because it's relaxing? Is it comforting? Actually, spat some of the water out. Maybe he's douching his mouth. Who knows? A bit of mouthwash. Leopard Lover, good question, asking if there's no food, will vultures move off or will they stay and, as you say, take the hard route? It probably very much depends on the severity of the lack of food, also where their nesting sites are, depending on the time of year. I think the nice thing if you're a vulture that unfortunately things will always die. That is the circle of life, so there will always be some food available. But my gut reaction is that they can move over huge distances searching for food. They can soar for tens and tens of kilometers in their search for food. I couldn't tell you exactly what the range of a specific individual has been, but I've no doubt that there is that information available. There are lots of conservation organisations that look out solely for the plight of vultures. There are birds that are tagged and ringed, so I'm sure we could find out sort of what the average distance travelled by a vulture is, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do, between 50 to 100 kilometres a day, no problem, in their never-ending search for food. But like anything, if there really is nothing, I have no doubt that they would relocate if they had to. The zebras have had enough waiting, they've chanced their arm. Anton Line Pride, you're asking that when it comes to impalas, if one has a lamb and then the mother is killed by a predator or any other reason, would another female adopt her youngster, or is that it for the young one? As far as I know, Anton, there's been no records of impalas adopting. Unfortunately, that youngster will very likely not make it. Remember that almost all impalas will give birth at any given season. They say that the pregnancy rate is something about 98% of all female impalas fall pregnant. So they are pretty invested in their own thing, and they're also keyed through scent and sound to recognize their own individual. So never say never, Anton, but I don't know of any confirmed reports where an impala that has her own lamb has adopted one from a deceased mother. I wouldn't have thought so. They have enough investment as is. And so, unfortunately for that youngster, it doesn't bode well for them. But there are plenty of impala around, so yeah, I think it's sad, but I think unfortunately not. It is quite rare. Kevin, you're saying now we see why it's called a dazzle of zebra. Yeah, absolutely. All of these stripes now beginning to dominate the waterhole. Very difficult at a glance to see the beginning of one and the end of another zebra. Great defense mechanism. I'd say very tolerant elephants the last few days. Minty Tillipau, you're asking why some animals actually walk into the water, like these zebras have done to drink. Buffalo, you've also mentioned, yeah, very well known for just wading into the water to drink, as opposed to just standing on the shore. Mindy, I don't know. Possibly something to do with confidence of a lack of crocodile, or the fact that the zebras and the buffalo consider themselves able to deal with crocodiles should there be one in a particular water source. But as a generalized rule, most things will stay on the bank, A, for visibility, B, for a quick escape in case a predator suddenly turns up, and C, due to the danger of crocodiles. So I don't know why specifically zebra and buffalo do seem to do it more than others. The only denominator that I can think of is size and maybe confidence that comes with. But yes, buffaloes do sometimes just completely engulf the entire waterhole and no regard for their own or others' hygiene, have no problem urinating and defecating while standing in the middle of the water. But that's all good. It's returning nutrients from the land to the water and feeding all the aquatic inhabitants. Spas, I'm glad you're enjoying the zebras and the elephants here at Old Onyo. Nice to see so many. This one with a little collection of oxpeckers holding a meeting on the nape of his neck there. Beautiful gathering of starlings on the left there. Difficult to know exactly which species we've got. I definitely see some superb starlings with that sort of chestnut breast. I wonder if the others are rupal starlings perhaps. Always nice to see that colourful feather, or those colourful feathers. Of course, even more striking during the summer, or during the sunlight I should say, with that iridescent layers of keratin creating little air pockets, and the light travels through them, bounces off the melanin on the skin, and then all that light being refracted and deviated as it passes back out through the feathers, and the refraction causing those beautiful dances of light, of purples and greens and blues. Down the rabbit hole a while ago of trying to find out what is the benefit of iridescence. You could understand it from a sexual selection perspective, where males are trying to show off to the females, but in starlings both sexes have this iridescence. So I remember looking in to think, well, is it a good way maybe to reflect sunlight, to reflect UV rays, to maybe keep cooler? But it seems that there have been some experiments done to test this, and actually quite the opposite is true. It seems that iridescent birds have a very slightly higher body temperature than non-iridescent birds, suggesting that it's not efficient in that regard. So it must be something to do with communication. There's one theory that in starlings, because they are quite gregarious birds, you get great big flocks of starlings, they wheel together, they move together. So possibly this iridescent light almost acts like lights on an aeroplane, just to show the ones flying very close by where they are. And if they are to suddenly change direction, that iridescence would sort of shine and flash and cause the neighboring bird to mimic the same behavior and wheel in the same direction. And then you end up with these beautiful, almost individual organisms of birds moving together, those murmurations of starlings, as they are called. Incredible things to witness if you've ever seen one in person. Lisa, there are many other birds that show iridescence, but the starlings are probably the most well known. But there are lots. A lot of the sunbirds have beautiful, if small, iridescent patches. Even some things like ducks have those little panels on their wings of iridescence. So yeah, iridescence is not an unusual thing, but birds see in colour. So it makes sense to invest a little bit more energy in coloration and pigment and development as part of the communication. One of my favourites has always been the violet-backed starling, formerly known as the plum-coloured starling many years ago, but it's always been one of my favourite birds, this incredibly rich, vivid, royal purple iridescence that they have, but none around at the moment. Intra-African migrants, so they've gone further north, and they'll only be back in probably 3, 4, 5 months' time when we start moving into the summer months. Everything to the back, having a bit of a stretch. Slow, deliberate trunkfuls of water. being taken in by this big boy.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Form of sensory information being passed on, but often seen as a greeting ceremony. He's trying to pull him away with his truss. How precious is this? They're going to end up in a knot if they carry on like this. Gina, no idea whether these two would be related. I think it's probably highly unlikely. Male elephants do go off on their own, but they also do hang around in sort of very open groups. So where members join and disappear and join and disappear, but I have no doubt that these two have a history that goes back many, many years, but whether or not they are actually related, I think it's probably unlikely. Blinding the other one with its trunk. It's a good fight tactic. Cover your eyes. There's absolutely no aggression or malice here. This is purely communication and nothing more. At the moment, at least. But looking at these interactions, I think is an absolute guarantee that these two have known each other for a while. Having a little catch up. Just good friends, as you say, wildlife lady, just good friends. Maybe it was a prolonged goodbye. Perhaps the one on the right is about to embark on a great odyssey and go exploring and was just saying, cheers, I'll see you soon. It's a secret. You've said you've never seen these blue starlings before and that they are very beautiful. They are exceptionally beautiful, Itza. We're very lucky here. We have lots of starlings that have this iridescent colouring. We've got the Cape starling, the greater blue-eared starling, the Birchall starling. In the north of Kruger we get the Meave starling, the violet-backed starling. There are many starlings in South Africa that have those beautiful iridescent colours. So if you've never seen them before, you must come visit. And you can tick off multiple iridescent starlings from your list. But that was a really intimate moment between these two enormous animals that could engage in such a sort of sensory communication as that. Loved the way that they were resting their trunks across each other's tusks. Almost felt like the slightly smaller one was investigating the crack on this one's tusk, maybe wanting to know what had happened. But lovely to see such, as I said before, powerful and potentially dangerous animals exhibiting such a softer side. Roland, you're saying, is it affection or a common way to communicate? I would say both. They use their trunks and say touch each other's mouths and sort of feel each other around the head is quite normal for greeting between elephants that know each other. Again, it rather depends on semantics, what you consider affection to be, but camaraderie perhaps, or friendship, a better way of describing it perhaps than affection as we tend to think of it. But very, very special to see. Picasso, you're saying there seem to be a few bird species that often sing at night. Well, yeah, obviously the nocturnal birds we hear at the night time, the owls, the thick-knees, the coursers, those sorts of things. Excuse me. But sometimes you do hear weird things. I've heard Jacobin's cuckoos calling in the middle of the night. Sometimes the francolins go off at during the dead of night. White-browed scrub robins as well, another one I hear quite regularly at night time. The lapwings, although that is often as a response to them being disturbed. So if you're ever out in the bush at night and you hear the lapwings, particularly the crowned lapwings, all suddenly start making a noise, it's a good idea to check, because they may well have been disturbed by a slinking predator at the time. If you're ever doing a sleep out, be aware of lapwings and things, certainly. But why those other birds do call at night, bit of a mystery, to be honest, Picasso. I couldn't give you an adequate reason why we hear certain species calling more often at night than others. But lovely to hear, a nice break from the silence of the evenings. Lorraine, you were loving that elephant interaction. Paul also saying maybe they were having a difference of opinion. Well, if it was a difference of opinion, it was very easily placated. But I'm going on the basis that it was a goodbye. The other one has disappeared. Maybe you wanted to say thank you for sharing this time with me at the waterhole. So I'm off to explore for a little bit, and I'll catch up with you later. Yeah, well, from one precious moment, let's go and see if we can find another precious moment. Let's pop in to the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Centre and check in on our little cheetah cubs. Well, looks like milk bar for one at the moment, and I think that is 3 other cubs lying close to Mum's tail there. Another busy day in the cheetah enclosure. Mum enjoying the peace.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
My full name is Mpho Tikani. I grew up in Soweto. My first animal that I filmed said to dog. Okay, no, it's my first animal that I filmed, I think it was an impala. Best sighting ever, I would say it was actually this year, 2024. But it was at this Cedric when we had Mulwati and TP on a warthog kill. I think we have to cut it.
Out here, every wild moment matters, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel, ad-free 24/7, where you can even rewind and watch something again. Get access to behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and access to early travel offers. It is the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
David, that's a good point. You say you're amazed how cheetahs can sleep with their heads up like that without getting a horrible crick in their neck, and it looks very uncomfortable. I agree. It is a very unnatural sort of pose, but a classic cheetah pose. But it enables them to keep a good lookout. As I just said, they are at constant danger of from bigger, more aggressive, stronger predators. So even though they are sort of sleeping, they're dozing, but head is up and will snap into action if they hear or see or sense anything approaching. It may have something to do with their special neck joint, that atlas axis at the base of the neck. I'm guessing it's called that. That's what it's called in the giraffe, but the point at which the spine joins the neck. It's incredibly flexible and almost has a built-in gyroscope. It's always amazing if you see slow motion footage of a cheetah, particularly running towards the camera going flat out. You can see the body is going ballistic, the spine is undulating as the back flexes due to the stride pattern, but the head remains almost perfectly still, which is very important if you're running at that speed, trying to lock on to a prey animal. You need to be able to figure out what's going on and change direction and judge distance. So very important that head is stable. So I'm not sure of the exact mechanisms, but a very, very clever way to keep your vision very, very good even when pounding the ground at high speeds. Wildlife lady, no, it's not especially hot today. I'm not sure the official forecast, but I think we're in the mid-20s today. It's sunny but cool, but the sun is still potent. When you're in direct sunlight, it's very dry this time of year in terms of a lack of humidity, which means you can really feel the heat of the sun because your body is not really sweating per se, or the humidity is not settling on your body. So I feel it's a much sort of stronger, dry, burny heat in the winter. But it's quite normal for most animals to have a little bit of a siesta during the early afternoon, the hottest time of the day, to burn unnecessary energy during the heat. So anyone seemingly taking advantage at the moment, probably delighted that he doesn't have to fight for access while the other three are having a doze. And for those of you who haven't been watching the last few days, these cubs have been seen eating their first solid food recently, taking food out of mum's bowl. So nice to know their digestive systems are evolving the way they should do, slowly beginning to take in solid foods and be weaned off milk. They're probably about 8 weeks old now, if I remember rightly, and they're normally weaned after about 3 months. So another month or so of milk intake and slowly being supplemented with some solid food. Very important to get that protein into a fast growing body, certainly. Good, not a great deal of activity. We'll keep an eye here. If things hot up and the youngsters start becoming a little more playful, I'm sure we'll pop back. But I didn't quite hear where, but it sounds like we have a giraffe somewhere. Let's go have a look. At Onguma in Etosha. What a beautiful pose this boy is putting on for us. Licking his lips for something. It's like tasting the air like a reptile. Ooh, something attracted his attention. Oh, look, a paradise wider just flew off in the background with that long tail. For those of you keeping a bird list, haven't seen one of those for a while. Long-tailed paradise wider. And some very, very clear skies. Lone giraffe at a desolate waterhole, but something attracted his attention. But evidently nothing of too much great concern. And deemed it is safe to bend down and have a drink. I've had many a debate about the different techniques of drinking, the spread-legged approach and the bent-kneed approach. This is the bent-kneed approach. As to whether there seems to be a preference. The more and more I watch giraffe drinking, I've seen a lot of giraffe drinking on these cameras, I'm beginning to decide that the males tend to go for the more bended knee approach and the females the more splayed front leg. Which I'm wondering if not as an adaptation to deal with the center of gravity. Males, of course, being bigger, having bigger chests, heavier necks, heavier heads. So it perhaps does make more sense to have your knees out in front of you to take some of that weight, whereas the females being slightly lighter can perhaps afford to pivot at the shoulders with the legs spread open. So I'm going to keep an eye on that to see whether we see it's more commonplace to go for the knee bend amongst the males as opposed to the females. Strange the things we occupy our thoughts with, hey? There's the paradise wider in the background again. See a lovely little bit of sort of red chestnut around the chest and that long black tail. But beautiful giraffe bull. Excellent condition that he's in. Very much in his prime. Super alert. Nikki, you're commenting on the hesitancy of giraffe when they come down to have a drink. But say, it is a very vulnerable position they have to put themselves in, so best to make absolutely sure that the coast is clear before you do so. Hudson, I'm basing on the fact that he looks in good condition just with regard to the quality of the skin there. You could see there was no damage to the skin. It wasn't sagging particularly. Everything looked in good condition. No issues with the fur at all. So it just looked like he was in good condition. Sorry, we had one or two problems with the camera there at Nguma, so we have headed over to Camelthorne in Botswana. Yeah, so it's a difficult one, Hudson. And we sort of look at the same thing with elephants as well. An older elephant, you can see the skin starts to stag, the spine starts to sink a little bit, the sunken temples of the forehead. But that giraffe just looked, how the best way to describe it, it just looked very smooth. The skin, the fur, yeah, all looked in good condition. Hugging the skull nicely, very much in his prime by the looks of it. Pink, you're asking why the elephants are up here rather than at the main body of water you see in the background. Pink, because elephants are fussy or clever, more likely the latter. You can see that that channel that they are at the beginning of comes from, I'm guessing, the water that is supplied to keep that dam with some water in it. So there'll be a pipe there pumping fresh water into the area, and elephants will almost always choose the cleanest water to drink from. So we see it at Oldonyo very often. There's a little pipe there that we see the elephants clamp their trunk over and take in the clean water. And I think we're seeing exactly the same thing here. There'll be a pipe feeding in some nice, crisp, clean fluid, and the elephants would rather drink that than the stuff at the back there, which is full of hippo dung and sediment and all the other things that would otherwise be in the water. Sure, when it's time to have a mud bath, however, then we'd rather go down to the main area of the water there. They'll probably use their feet to disturb the water, get all the sediment running through it, get all those grains of soil running through the water, so when it's splashed onto the back or onto the body, it helps with sunblock, helps with having a good scratch, acts like an exfoliant. That's usually the next thing to do after having a drink, is to go and have a mud bath, but certainly the one on the left looks as if it's already got a fairly substantial coating. But normally it's drink, followed by mud bath, followed by dust bathe. That's sort of the standard elephant beauty regime. But you never know what you might get. The bassy orchestra of the hippos in the background. This youngster looks as if he wants to have a little bit of a scrap. He may have bitten off a bit more than he can chew. The other one's definitely bigger, but he looks like he wants to incite a little bit of play fighting here. Kimmy was saying he thought the sound was rutting impala for a moment. Yeah, not hearing much of that now. We're pretty much at the end of the rut for the impalas. Still hearing it very occasionally, but a month or so, 6 weeks ago, the bush was alive with the growling, grunting sounds of impalas chasing each other around, and the snorting. Very strange noise if you've never heard it before. Something that you would not expect a delicate, pretty little thing like an impala to be able to produce. And certainly if you don't know what you're hearing, it can always be a little bit disconcerting. Certainly was the first time I heard it. I was convinced I was being stalked by some sort of monstrous predator. Alas, no, it was just a couple of impalas having a scrap.
Katika mwanga wa mwezi kivuli hutembea, mrembo mweusi anayepotea, macho yake ni taa, gizani huwaka, fuvu la msitu, malkia anayejificha.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure. Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife. And stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Yeah, it looks like we've zoomed across to Tembe Elephant Park. And we've got another elephant having a drink. Definitely an elephant day. And a beautiful Inyala in the foreground as well. Albeit briefly. This elephant's got a drinking problem. It's struggling to get it in the mouth. Little Impala, Inyala calf had been left behind. Okay, sounds like we've got some more giraffe at Rosie's Pan. Let's go watch the elegance for a while. 4 giraffes, in fact, all staring at something. What have you seen, giraffes? Have you spotted our leopard who was here a few days ago, last week? Sandy Franklin, no, I don't think an elephant has any discomfort when it has a floppy ear like the ones that we've seen with that damaged cartilage in the ear there. I don't think there's anything physical that would cause any pain for them. I think it's probably a bit annoying, but nothing more than that. No, I don't think it's a problem. But something has definitely interested these giraffe, or it had done at least. Always good to take note if you see a bunch of giraffe all staring in the same direction. Good chance that they've seen something, picked up on some movement. And as we were saying, particularly vigilant around waterholes. Can't see anything, but the giraffes have a lot better view than we have. From this distance, these look like female giraffe, so I'm intrigued to test my drinking stance theory. Double check if they are females and see if they go for the legs spread as opposed to the knees bent technique. Strangely invested in the drinking stance of giraffes today. Mindy Tillipau, you're saying we don't see giraffe very often here at Rosie's Pan, so lovely to see them. Beautiful giraffes, says Dark Mane Lover. But there must be something off to the right, so they're staring intently. Maybe deciding if they haven't had a drink yet that whatever it is a little bit too scary to warrant drinking at the moment. You can see this one had a few steps away, is now looking back to verify. Wildlife lady, as you said, maybe they would be wonderful to see that leopard come back. But definitely something that's caused a little bit of a stir amongst these giraffe.
Now this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My full name is Emojis. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I want a camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
Join our expert guides at dawn for a live, immersive safari as the bush comes to life.
Found ourselves a chameleon, and look how he's changed color.
Every sunrise brings new discoveries.
Pound for pound, a leopard is one of the strongest cats around.
Ask questions, share your thoughts, and connect with nature live and in real time.
Great excitement, great happiness.
Start your day with adventure.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. Become a member. You can gain access to the channel ad-free, you can rewind and re-watch sightings, and you can join our Tuesday live safaris. There's also behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever you want it. It's just a better way to stay connected to nature.
The other one also now checking off in this direction. Beautiful to watch their shadows there. Of course, I'm sure many of you have seen some of those lovely photographs that have been taken from drones or from helicopters, from sort of directly above the giraffe at morning or afternoon. You can't really see the giraffe, but you just see their shadows out across the sand if you're in a tosha or wherever it may be in a nice open area. It adds a lovely three-dimensional aspect. It's a secret. You say that you think the bushes to the right of the waterhole were moving more than the other bushes and trees. It's possible. Maybe there was something in there. Not sure if it's slightly higher up where this waterhole is. It looks like it might be. So maybe it was just getting a little bit more of the breeze. But whatever it was, the giraffe seemed to have lost interest. And Hudson, you're asking if do you wonder whether giraffes can show preference towards individuals? I'm not sure if you mean towards people or towards other members of or other giraffe. I would sure between other giraffe there will be relationships, but hard to know. But we are running out of time rapidly, so we are going to finish off, I think, unless something amazing happens elsewhere at Tembe. I'm not sure if anybody sees anything in this little clearing. I'm waiting for a leopard to come strolling out of the bushes. But I've only about 3 or 4 minutes left. Erica Old now, I'm glad you've enjoyed the show today, and thank you for your thanks to me and the team in Johannesburg. It's been quite a quiet day, a slow start to the week out in the bush, a lot of rather lackadaisical elephants, a few frantic zebra, nice to catch up with some giraffe having a drink as well. Sarah from the UK thanking me for my lovely company, apparently. Sarah, it has been an honour, and thank you for your company as well, and to everybody else who is and has been watching, and for all of your questions and comments that have been flying through today. We can't do the show without you, or it will be an awful lot less entertaining for us and for everybody watching. So always wonderful to get these questions through. Allow the brain to consider some options. But yeah, we've seen some nice things. I think for me, the favourite was that interaction we saw between those two bulls at Old Donyo, the way they were draping each other's trunk over each other's tusks. It's not something you see every day. So quite an intimate moment there. Wildlife Lady, you're also welcome, and thank you to you. And It's a Secret as well. Thank you for your comments and questions. But alas, yeah, we're inside the last minute now, so I need to start thinking about what else I'm going to do throughout the day. Got a potential stargazing booking in for this evening, so hoping the skies remain clear. And whatever your plans are for the rest of your Monday, I hope the beginning of your week is a good one. And don't forget to join us tomorrow, same time, same place, 12:30 Central African time for another 2-hour odyssey across our cameras and our locations. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks again, and I will speak to you soon, I have no doubt.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be discovering real wildlife gems of South Africa. This is a virtual safari filled with beauty, wildlife and stories. We're going to be visiting unique and diverse reserves, spending time with famous animal characters and learning some real conservation stories. So remember, if any of the locations featured on Safari Spotlight interest you, our experts at Wild Earth Travel are standing by to make your dreams come true.